Recording in progress.
Testing. Test.
I can't.
All right. It is 6:30. We will call the February council meeting to order at this time. Welcome to those in attendance, those watching at home, and to the Common Council. At this time, we will have the clerk call the roll.
Bolt.
Here.
Vanderkin.
Here.
Kotarovic. Here. Bry.
Here.
Breckelberg.
Here.
Sikowitz.
Here.
Beeman. Schley.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Sakala.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, and Alderman Beeman is excused. At this time, will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And if you could remain standing after the pledge for a prayer by our council president, Steve Sakala. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we make our earnest prayer that thou will keep the United States in thy holy protection, that thou will incline the hearts of citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, and entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another and for their fellow citizens of the United States of America at large. And finally, thou wilt most graciously be pleased to dispose us to all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion, and without whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation. Grant our supplication, we beseech thee, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Council President Sakala. We have no presentations this evening, but we do have 4 public hearings, so I'll invite Community Development Director Adam Tagan up for the first one, the hearing purpose of hearing any and all interested parties interested in matters of the analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives in the River Point District for property located in and around 1050 York Street and the FY 2022 US EPA brownfield cleanup grant application. We'll have the clerk read the proof of publication.
Notice of this public hearing was published in the Herald Times on January 31st.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, this is one of the
procedural things we generally have to do as we're continuing to pursue grants for the investigation and cleanup at River Point. Specifically, the city did apply for a $500,000 cleanup grant to continue work out there, really targeted towards the area on the north side of the peninsula. So for those of you who do not recall what an ABCA is, basically it's a document that goes through and looks at alternatives for cleaning up the site. Generally, you look at 3 or 4 different ones. In this case, as we have looked at elsewhere on the peninsula, the most likely solution is to try and deal with the contamination in place, meaning we're not going to go out and dig up hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of contaminated soil and put it in a landfill. Instead, we'll haul away what we have to, but in most instances, we'll end up capping the site with clean fill or a building or a parking lot, for example. So this process is basically allowing the public to comment on that document. It has been out for review for several weeks. We have not received any comments. So staff. So yeah, that's that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council for Adam at this time? Seeing none, then this is a public hearing for this specific subject matter. If anyone from the public is interested in speaking on this specific subject matter, you may do so at this time. Anyone interested in speaking? Going once, twice. We'll close that public hearing. We'll move to the next public hearing for the purpose of hearing any and all interested parties in the matter of a proposed conditional use permit for the preserves at Lincoln Park Subdivision Planned Unit Development. We'll have the clerk read the proof of publication.
Notice of this public hearing was published in the Herald Times on February 6th and February 13th.
Thank you. Adam.
All right, several items for this subdivision have come through before the council, but this is basically getting the zoning in place to allow a 34-unit single-family neighborhood development. The property is currently zone B1 office, which does allow single-family. However, in reviewing the developer's request, it was found that there is a need to customize the zoning district a little bit, add a little more flexibility to allow his unique development to take place. So basically, there's one main thing that's being adjusted, and that is the setbacks. Traditionally, you have a 6-foot setback for the side yards. The developer is requesting the ability to go down to 3 feet. That allows them to move the house back and forth a little bit on the various lots, depending on the models chosen. However, they will still maintain a minimum of 12-foot separation between 2 homes. So in effect, you're still getting a 6-foot setback on either side, but this just allows a little more flexibility. So the full document was attached for your review. This went through the Plan Commission for a public informational hearing. No one was present other than the developer on it, so Plan Commission recommended approval unanimously.
Thank you. Any questions for Adam from the council at this time? Seeing none, then this is a public hearing, so anyone from the public interested in speaking on this specific subject matter may do so at this time. Anyone interested in speaking? Going once, twice. We'll close this public hearing. We'll move to the next public hearing for the purpose of hearing any and all interested parties in the matter of a proposed change in zone from B3 General Business District to R7 Central Resident District for property generally located along the west side of South 9th Street, the south side of Hamilton Street, and the north side of Madison Street. We'll have the clerk read the proof of publication.
Notice of this public hearing was published in the Herald Times on February 6th and February 13th.
Thank you. Adam.
All right, the city was approached by an individual property owner at 1210 South 9th Street requesting this rezoning. Basically, they have a 3-family non-conforming building because it's zoned commercial, not residential. So they wanted to basically downzone it to the R7 district, which would allow the 3-family use. Staff, when reviewing the request, felt it was not appropriate to just pick one house out of a strip of approximately 13 homes on that side of the street, all of which are residential. So staff actually is recommending that we rezone that entire half of the block back, down zone it to R7 Central Residence District. Again, all those are currently residential, so they would actually all be brought into compliance by that change. We considered rezoning the west half of the block as well, but that fronts on 10th Street, which has a much higher traffic count, and there is a mixture of some commercial uses along that stretch. Again, that was a public informational hearing at the Plan Commission. No one was opposed to the request, and the Plan Commission recommended approval unanimously.
Thank you, Adam. Are there any questions from the council at this time for Adam? Seeing none, then this is a public hearing for this specific subject matter. Is there anyone interested in speaking on this specific subject matter? Anyone interested in speaking? Once, twice? We'll close this public hearing. We'll move to the final public hearing for the purpose of hearing any and all interested parties in the matter of a proposed conditional use permit located at a portion of 842 South 26th Street for the establishment of a contractor's equipment storage area. We'll have the clerk read the proof of publication.
Notice that this public hearing was published in the Herald Times on February 6th and February 13th.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, this particular property, as noted, is zoned I-1 Light Industrial District. What is basically requiring a conditional use is the fact that there will be outdoor storage or a contractor yard on the property. That's the main difference between permitted and conditional uses within this district. McMullen and Pitts currently has their lay-down construction contractor yard located at the River Point District, right on the point. They are looking to relocate that into a location that has better access, better soils, better pretty much all around is my understanding. So they requested the conditional use. Planning staff did review it and recommend approval subject to 9 conditions. At the public informational hearing, there was one neighbor who showed up and had concerns on how the site would be screened. Quite honestly, staff is still working with the applicant to figure out how the overall site will be developed. It is a treed site, so there will likely be some existing trees that will be retained. However, depending on how the site does develop, staff did place a condition of approval that says that the applicant will work with staff to maintain site screening. After that review at the Plan Commission, they recommended approval. They did add a 10th condition, but they supported it unanimously.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for Adam at this time? Seeing none, then this is a public hearing for this specific subject matter. Anyone interested in speaking on this specific subject matter? I should have asked, was there any prior for any of the public hearings for this evening?
There was not.
Okay. Anyone interested in speaking on this subject matter? Going once, twice, and we will close the public hearings. We will move to item F, public input. If there's anyone from the public interested in speaking on anything germane to the business of the city of Manitowoc, you may do so at this time. Is there anyone interested in speaking? Yes, please, if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Laura and Brian Stecker, you said address?
Sure.
7121 Dutch Road. So I think I've talked to most of you, save a few, but I just wanted to touch base since the last time that we had the meeting. We did meet with the mayor and a few other representatives from the city, and I just wanted to make sure you had that information. There really wasn't anything discussed. It was all everything that we had already known. They went over what happened at the Planning Commission meeting. And then what happened at the last council meeting, which we were present at and we were aware of. We understand the city's position, where you're coming from, that you don't want to lose land. So Brian and I spent some time just researching on our own, so you had some more information, black and white facts, to kind of help you with your decision when it comes time to vote. I spoke to Manitowoc Public Utilities just to get information on how city water and sewer comes to a property and how that all works. In our case, I mean, all of you know that you have to petition the city to get it to you. In our case, there would be 4 properties that would fall in line with us to help reduce the cost and bring city water and sewer to us. However, the last property is still a half mile from ours. So even if all 3 other property owners say, yes, we want to petition to get city water and sewer, the cost is still way north of $65,000 for us to get city water and sewer to us. 2 of those 3 property owners just put in a new septic or mound system in the last year or 2. So the fact that they will sign on for 10, 20, 30 years is highly unlikely. The other owner is mid to late 80s. She has no interest in doing anything. So yes, we could petition to have it brought to our property, but then the cost is north of $108,000 for us, which is just not, it's not feasible. It's not logical. Brian did look into the 25-year plan. I know some of you questioned that. Some of you looked into it, which is great. And it's really more of a vision than a plan. It's what the city would like to see happen. The land around our area, you know, there's areas where they want to see residential. There's areas where they want to see industrial. However, it's not dependent on anything that they do to make this happen. It's dependent on property owners or business owners or things like that happening. So when we had our meeting, I kind of asked just to see, like, what's in the works? What do we have coming? Is there anything that looks likely? And if I may quote Adam, he said, if we had a crystal ball. So it's really, and like I said, it's nothing on the city's fault, that's their fault. It's just, this is just how this works. The land that they owned over by Ammo and Red Line, they had for 40 years before it developed. So this is kind of where we're at, is we don't know if it's gonna be 5 years, we don't know if it's gonna be 15, we don't know if it's gonna be 40 before there is enough there to run city water and sewer to bring that cost more within reason for Brian and I. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you said everything that, I mean, these people, we've been up here a couple times now speaking our minds. And I mean, the land that we purchased and built on, that was annexed in the city nearly a quarter century ago. There's how many houses north of El Verno that they could have ran water to underneath the railroad tracks. They're in the city. They don't have water, sewer yet.
Yeah, and I'm sure Eric will speak to the letter too. We discussed the legalities of a letter, and he said there's nothing they could draft that would hold up in court. And I'm sure he'll touch base more on that when it comes time for that. But yeah, you would have to take us at our word. When it makes sense, we'd be on board to annexing back in, but there's no time frame you can give us, and right now the cost just doesn't make sense, and it just seems more like a mountain in front of us to get any sort of services to us, so. Good. Yeah, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public interested in speaking on anything germane to the business of the city of Manitowoc? Do we have any previous comments?
No.
No, all right, going once, twice. See anyone on Zoom? All right, we'll close public input. We'll move to, we do not have any appointments this evening. We'll move to the consent agenda. Is there anything to be removed from the consent agenda? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Alderman Schley, I'll just assume you're voting yes every time unless I hear you squawk a no. How about, okay? All right. We'll move to committee reports, and we'll start with the committee of the whole and the council president, Steve Sakala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has our documents.
We have document 123, which is a resolution to hire Sean Alfred as Finance Director Treasurer for the City of Manitowoc, effective February 27th, 2023. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Alderman Sakala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, Sean, it's glad to see you, and I feel bad for Adam because he's no longer the best groomed man in City Hall. So, with that, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Sean, welcome back to the City of Manitowoc. You know, we got Steve Corbell on the line. Maybe we can kick him off and save a couple bucks, and you can just fill in for what he was going to do. Not just kidding. Just kidding. Looking forward to you starting next week. We will take the rest of the items.
Document 149 is the report of a special event committee recommending approval for various special events. Committee returns same, recommending approval.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move to recommend approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 158 is a resolution censoring Alderperson Steve Sakala for inappropriate conduct. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Alderman Sitkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just had a pretty extensive committee of the whole meeting at 5:15. And so council's aware the resolution why it didn't come as amended is I had the assistant city attorney redraft it to make sure that the addition of having Alder Sakala removed from the personnel committee for the remainder of his term was added into the original resolution, so not just as a handwritten amendment. So I had my comments. I would reserve them back to the committee of the whole for them. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing Alderman Sakala?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I I really don't have to comment right here, but I elected to do so anyway. Just want to send out one more apology to anybody that may have been offended by my comments. I personally don't get offended, and I try very hard not to offend. So anybody that was, my sincere apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Sakala. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Will you be abstaining, Alderman Sakala? Okay, so the motion carries 8-0-1 with Alderman Sakala abstaining. Thank you. Anything else, Council President Sakala?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes our business.
Thank you. We'll move then to the Finance Committee, and Alderman Jim Bry is chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has the documents.
Document 87 is an ordinance to adjust rates for sewer service charges effective March 1st, 2023. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
Council, your pleasure on this ordinance.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. We do have Steve Corbell here if there are questions, because Steve was the guy working on this. Steve, do you have anything you'd like to share, or?
No, nothing specific to share, but I'd be happy to respond to any questions anyone would have.
All right. Are there any questions from the council?
Just thank you, Steve, for participating. We appreciate your help with this. So it's not always a popular thing to do, but in the grand scheme of things, it'll be a minor adjustment, hopefully, and hopefully will definitely work out. So thank you.
Yep. No, thank you.
All right, then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 95 is a
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, yes.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Document 95 is a resolution terminating TIF District Number 17 and authorizing treasurer to distribute excess increment to overlying taxing districts. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move for the adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
I guess you'll, if I may, Mr. Mayor, you'll see by the next resolution what a potential continuation of, at least for a year, of some of that proceeds, but definitely worthwhile. And thank Adam and the department for coming up with that idea. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 96 is a resolution to extend tax increment financing district number 17 to fund Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move for adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 97 is a resolution authorizing staff to apply to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, Wisconsin Assessment Monies Program for a portion of the River Point District. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Motion for the adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. You've only said it a million times in your life.
Yes, I guess it's one time to screw up here, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 98 is an ordinance to amend Section 20.040 of the Municipal Code regulating biweekly pay for certain employees. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
Council, your pleasure on this ordinance.
Move to adopt the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Thanks to our Assistant City Attorney for catching this, just cleaning up some of our code language per what we are actually doing. So that's all this is, really. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
All right, document 104, resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $6,130,000 general obligation promissory notes. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
Just quickly, Mr. Mayor, this is the beginning of our borrowing process for this year. Hopefully, we're going to finalize everything in April of this month, of this year, I should say. So we're moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 105 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $3.6 million general obligation promissory notes and authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $3.6 million note anticipation notes In anticipation thereof, committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 106 is a scope of engagement relative to the proposed issuance of not to exceed $6,130,000 City of Manitowoc General Obligation Promissory Notes. Committee returns same, recommending to accept the proposal.
Council pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 107 is a scope of engagement relative to the proposed issuance of not to exceed $3.6 million City of Manitowoc Note Anticipation Notes. Committee returns same, recommending to accept.
Council pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. We do not have 127.
Oh.
Industrial Development Corporation.
I thought it was, did I put it in with the Plan Commission thing, maybe?
It's possible.
Beginning to think
It's
because,
possible, I'm sorry.
no, it's all right.
Maybe.
I know I signed it or brought it.
Let's see.
Just making sure. We can blame Adam too.
There we go.
No, if I remember correctly, I think we mistakenly had it probably on the consent agenda, even
We
though it
got it
shouldn't.
right here.
There we go.
Thanks for
All
your
right.
Patience. We have document 127, report of the Industrial Development Corporation relative to the option and right of first refusal for Beamco Precision Machining and Fabrication for property located at West Drive and 59th Street. Committee returns same, recommending entering into the right of first refusal.
Council pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Alderman Bry?
That should be it, Mr. Mayor, except our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 7th at 5:30 PM here in the Common Council chambers. Thank you again.
Thank you. We will then move to the Personnel Committee, and Alderman Eric Sitkowitz is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has both documents this evening.
We have document 69, which is a request for residency accommodation for the fire department for Tews. Committee returned same, recommending to approve a 6-month residency extension as long as they reside at that current address during that time.
Council, your pleasure on this request.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report,
On the
Mr. Mayor.
resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 70 is a request for residency accommodation from the fire department for Lohberger. Committee returned same, recommending to approve a 6-month residency extension as long as they reside at that current address during that time.
Council, your pleasure on this request.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Alderman Sitkowitz?
Nothing further at this time that completes our business, but our next personnel meeting is Monday, March 6th.
Thank you. We'll then move to the Public Infrastructure Committee. Alderman Mike Cummings is chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has documents.
We have document 41, which is a municipal water agreement with a property owner. Committee returns same, recommending to enter into the agreement.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move to enter into the agreements, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 71 is a Bay Lake Technical Assistance Grant for Calumet Avenue Corridor Concept Plan and Lakefront Park Beach Access Concept Plan. Committee returns same, recommending to approve the request to apply for the grant.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move to adopt the committee report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 76 is a tree removal and sidewalk replacement at 1901 Marshall Street. Committee returns same, recommending to deny the request.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move to adopt the committee report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 157 is a resolution authorizing emergency repairs to the 8th Street Lift Bridge. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Alderman Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this was a late ad that just got added the other day. It was something that came up via an inspection from Department of Transportation, I believe. So I'm glad that we're able to get this on the agenda and get the bridge fixed, as it is critical for our operation.
Yes, indeed, especially before sailing season begins.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 159 is an ordinance to amend Section 8.170 of the Municipal Code to rename Clay Pit Road Park to Manitowoc Chiefs Youth Football Park. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
Council, your pleasure on this ordinance.
Move to adopt the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Alderman Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, thank you to everyone that has supported this resolution or ordinance. The Chiefs have been around for obviously a long time in this community, first as a semi-pro organization, then helping with youth football since 1974. A lot of people haven't known since the inception of it that we have been operating on a city property, on a city park, but it was never a Manitowoc Chiefs Park. Everybody known it as that, but it never officially was. So this not only bestows a great honor upon everybody that's played for the Chiefs and who will play for the Chiefs, but also then it makes sense as well for our community to officially name a park on what it's being used for. On top of that, for people that visit us, we can just say, hey, come down to Manitowoc Chiefs Youth Football Park. Hopefully it'll be in Google Maps and Apple Maps and everybody else's software soon. So it'll make it nice for the people to navigate to us as well. So thank you for supporting it as well, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any further discussion? I want to thank you for spearheading it as well. I think it makes absolute sense. A couple years ago, we changed Dewey Street Park to Miracles for the same reason. So I think it's great that we can celebrate the great things that are happening in Manitowoc's parks, especially a long-standing program like the Chiefs here in the city. So I think it'll be a great addition to the community to be able to name it that for a very long time to come. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Alderman Cummings?
That concludes our business, Mr. Mayor. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, March 1st at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers.
Sounds good. Thank you. We'll move to the Public Safety Committee. Alderman Schley, would you like to take it, or is Alderman Reckelberg taking it? Alderman Reckelberg? All right. Alderman Reckelberg, you'll take the document?
I will. Clerk has our material, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
We have document 113, which is an ordinance to create section 10.460 of the municipal code regulating parking of recreational vehicles and truck campers on city streets. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
Council, your pleasure on this ordinance.
I move to adopt the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second by Alderwoman Cotter-Abeck. Discussion. Alderman Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first, let me thank the Public Safety Committee and Eric Nitsch, I'm sorry, as our Assistant City Attorney to draft this, and the Police Chief and the Police Department in getting this ordinance, because it's been well documented that we've been having problems with, specifically with one RV/camper here in the city of Manitowoc. But Eric, I'm going to defer to you because I keep reading it over and over, but just maybe I want a better explanation. Under Section 2, the last sentence, each occurrence violating a subsection shall constitute a separate offense, such as a total of 5 separate violations may occur during one overnight period when one RV or truck camper is parked overnight and on city streets. I guess I'm playing dumb. Can you explain that a little bit better? I'm not sure. I got in my mind what's happening, and then I also have a question, I guess, too. But again, thank you.
Sure. So,
yeah, go absolutely.
So, the idea is between the time limits, you get 1 hour.
Okay.
Then your next hour, you can get is a violation. Once that violation is complete, then you get another hour. Once that's complete, another violation. So if you're overnight, if you look at the times, you can have, in theory, the police can issue 5 separate parking tickets for that night. And I believe the plan is, not that you asked, but I believe each ticket's going to be $20, and this gives leeway to the police to deal with people who are repeated violators.
Good. And that answered my question, because one of my concerns was that, especially with this one that we've had the problems with, let's say they get the first violation for an hour. Well, before the hour's up, they move their vehicle 20 feet and then just continue perpetually just moving on that spot. I want to, hopefully this is going to prevent that.
It should.
You're right. That's
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
to everybody involved.
Thank you, Alderman Bry. Any further discussion? Alderman Cummings.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to thank the Safety Committee for taking this up right away. For those of you that may not know, I just want to say it publicly. This was brought up by one of my constituents initially. The RV in question that initially brought it up was obviously in our district, and they took it upon themselves to go and contact the city council via email. They spoke about it publicly during a public input, and then showed up at the appropriate committee meetings for it to help drive it. Just wanted to bring to the attention that, when citizens and bring up stuff to the alderman and older people or older person, it doesn't come upon deaf ears. We have a city council right now that takes action on things, takes constituents' concerns seriously, and this is a great example of where a regular citizen found an issue in our community, brought it forth, and we took action and got it resolved for something that does now make sense. Helps out our public safety departments enforce it. Otherwise, there was loopholes galore in what we currently had, and it just makes us all better. So I personally supported the constituent that came forth at the safety committee meeting. When they got passed at that meeting, they told me privately, they said they were very inspired by what happened. Said, in fact, in their words, they said, it's awesome how just a regular citizen like me can have an impact on the community just by speaking up. And I hope that we can take that lesson for anybody watching, anybody that does watch, to know that as citizens, you can inspire change. And all you got to do is bring it up to your elected official, and we take everything seriously. And if it makes sense, obviously take action on it like we just did. So thank you, everybody that did that. It makes sense and hopefully inspires more people to be involved in the future. That's it.
Thank you, Alderman Cummings. Well stated. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Alderman Schley.
Hey, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak up on behalf of the committee and just simply say I was very impressed with Attorney Nitch's work on this, drilling down and getting this thing right. And also the constituent that came forward. We make it easy for our constituents to do so. I'm in the state of Florida right now. You can come forward and public comment anytime electronically, just the same way I'm speaking to the council right now, and do the same. So you don't even have to come to City Hall. You can do it electronically if you need to. But I really wish more of our constituents would become involved in their city government. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Thank Attorney Nitch and recommend that everyone vote in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schley. I hope you get a 10-inch snowstorm tomorrow as well. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Alderman Sakala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I too just want to add, I had Heisenberg Park down the street from me also. And and there was really nothing we could do about it because they would move a little bit here, a little bit there every day. So they moved elsewhere, I think down by the car ferry. But now, hopefully, we can put an end to this. So thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Sakala. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Alderman Reckelberg?
I would too like to reiterate, when the members of the public have a concern or whatever, please call your alderperson, because I know, we're there to serve you. And if there is something that we can get before the city council, if your attendance either via Zoom or here means a lot, because it just helps us get the message across to the rest of our alders. So thank you. With that, our next meeting looks like it'll be Monday, the 13th of March. And that is it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Reckelberg. We'll then take up the Plan Commission documents.
Tabled from last meeting is document 22-1082, Brian and Laura Stecker petition for a detachment of territory from the city of Manitowoc for property located at 7121 Dutch Road.
All right, the council, your pleasure. Yep.
I may,
Alderman
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to place back on the table document 221082 PC 25
There's
2022.
a motion to bring back to the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Oh, sorry. There is one no. Okay, so Alderman Schley is a no. Oh, okay. Two no's. Sorry. Can we get the no's? Just raise your hands, please. Okay, so this is to bring back to the table. Okay, so Schley and Katarabek. So the motion still carries. So the document is on the table, and council your pleasure on.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'll make a motion to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation of the detachment for the Steckers.
Second.
Just a point of clarification.
Well, it wasn't a plan, I'm sorry, it wasn't a recommendation from the plan, it was.
Right, so there was no
So that is my recommendation, I
Okay.
guess. My motion is to do that. I'm sorry.
And still my second.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the request and a second, just to make sure. Because the Plan Commission was split on their vote, and staff's recommendation was to deny. So this motion is to approve. Okay, discussion on the motion. Alderman Bry.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, a very difficult thing for us to discuss as well. As a city councilman, as an alderman, you don't want to see property detached from the city of Manitowoc, but the Steckers made a very good point here. And I guess I have faith that eventually hopefully that area will start being developed and water and sewer can actually get out there at a more reasonable cost. But in the interim, I guess I would support the detachment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Sakala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my position hasn't changed since last month. We talked on this. They've received nothing from us. I see no reason why they should remain in the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we're just doing math here because we do have an alderman missing. So Alderman Bolt, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I am full support of allowing these people to detach. It doesn't make any sense to me passing. I would not want to pay, and I don't think any of our constituents would want to pay for a service that they don't get and not know any type of time frame which they're going to be allowed to use the services. So I'm in full support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Sitkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My position hasn't changed since last month. If we take a look at the city, one of the tasks we're tasked with is growing the city. And we're limited on how we can grow. We can't grow to the east. We can't grow to the north. The only way we can really grow is west and south. And this property is on the far west side of the city. So if we detach, we are actually shrinking and we're going backwards. There's a plan or a guide, but our ordinances are set up that we can't do residential water or sewer outside the city. So if we think we're going to grow in that area by detaching, we're not. The best chance for long-term growth is to remain into the city. If it is detached, all our planning for that area has no teeth behind ever coming to fruition because it's not something we can do. We can't go to where we're not, if that makes sense. But then we talked about level of services. Do the Steckers receive the same level of services as every citizen in the city of Manitowoc? They absolutely don't. And neither does everybody else. I have constituents that don't have storm sewer. They still have ditches. That's a different service than a lot of constituents sitting alongside of me. We're not always on an equal playing field when it comes to the services received. We can work towards changing that. That takes dollars, that takes planning, but we're only going to take dollars and planning in that direction if you're part of the city. And I just don't see any long-term growth by retracting. So, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. I didn't see Alderman Schley if you had your hand up or not. Okay, yes, you do. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to apologize. I was a bit confused about the previous vote. I thought it was someone taking the opportunity to delay this, when in fact it was to bring this to a vote. And I do support the Steckers in their motion here to detach from the city. As everyone else has said, it just simply doesn't make any sense to me. They're not receiving the level or quality of service of any other city resident that I know of. So I will support this detachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schley. Alderman Reckelberg.
I can certainly appreciate the alderman's concern about shrinking the city, but some of the things he said bring questions to mind. He says, well, you know, it's gotta be in the city so that we can expand and put those utilities out there, but don't we have utilities out there in non-city property? For example, out by the, where we had problems with the landfill. I mean, that's not city property, and yet we're expanding utilities out there. What about the water that's being sold to the people up in Brown County, just outside there, that area? So, I mean, it sounds like if it needs to be done or wants to be done, just doesn't mean that it's in city property. We may have to jump through different hoops, but maybe it still can be done. The other thing is I take these people at their word that says, you know, if we're going out there and we're going to get close and we want to do that, they would ask to be re-annexed to the city. And I take them at their word. I have no reason why to doubt them. And, you know, I always believe what people say until they prove me wrong, and then I'll never believe them again. But these people have never done anything that would question that, you know, their word is their word. So I would hope that people would support it, although, like I said, Alder Sikowitz, I certainly can understand your feeling, but boy, you know, to me, this is just doing something right. They're not getting service. Why should they have to pay? So I would hope people would approve the de-annexation for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Alderman Cummings. I had you, yep, but then she.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I personally understand where a lot of the aldermen are coming from with the Steckers and can understand, of course, the services that they're not currently receiving. That being said, through the research, I found that and their admission that they bought the property already when it was part of the city at that part of it. As a city, I agree with Alderman Sikowitz. I don't think that we should willingly just make the city smaller that way, especially if when they bought the property, it was already part of the city. And so kind of one of those things where the way I look at it, you already knew what you already going to receive, not receive as part of it. Good effort to try to change it. And obviously if it goes through, I understand it fully. I just don't necessarily agree with it as far as leaving at this point. So that'd be it.
Thank you, Alderman Cummings. Alderwoman Cotter-Robick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo Bill. I think I also had that confusion with our last vote. However, my viewpoint on this also hasn't changed since the last time. I definitely see both sides of this situation, and if there was a timeline in place that we knew that there would be water out there, that I would maybe think differently, but I am still in support of allowing the Steckers to annex from the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, point of information, you know, you were talking about math. It needs a 2/3 vote.
It needs 3/4. 3/4.
I'm sorry. My math isn't the greatest tonight.
It requires 7 votes.
That's what my question was going to be based on members present or members of the body?
Present.
Members present. Nope.
No.
So it's members of the body. So it requires 8 people. That's what I thought, and I wanted to clarify that, so thank you.
Okay, sure. You're looking at state statute. I believe you.
And that's what I thought, I guess, but I wanted to verify it by the gentleman who knows what's.
Okay, so it does require it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any further discussion? I would just like to add a staff perspective again. Appreciate what the Steckers, went through to get to this point and what they provided. Staff recommendation, as we did meet with them still, especially after learning that a letter would not hold any weight if, they did want to sign something, which we appreciate that they made that offer, but it wouldn't hold any weight, moving forward, that it could do anything if not. The staff's recommendation is that we look at long-term growth, a lot of what Alderman Sikowitz said, but also too, just precedent of this as well, that, this council could be setting. What we're saying here now is that citizens aren't necessarily receiving some services so they can detach from the city. What happens when a constituent of Alderman Sitkowitz's come and say, well, I'm not getting the sewer services because I have a ditch? I want to detach from the city. And as of right now, the only argument we would have and the precedent of the city would be, well, you can, I guess, because you claimed you're not getting every single service that the city provides, even though you're still getting 24/7 police protection. If you call 911, ambulance will be sent to your place. The City of Manitowoc ambulance will be sent to your place because you reside in the City of Manitowoc. You're getting a lot of services as well that may be behind the scenes that not every citizen knows are available and ready to them. My worry, again, is the precedent that could be set. Is if a citizens just come to us and say, I'm not getting 3 out of the 15 services that we might describe, I would like to detach. What precedent is that setting moving forward? So again, that's the staff's position. That's why we made the recommendation to deny the request. Also, I do want to make sure that in this motion is that because of the timelines here, that they would not be required to pay another fee to apply for this, because they have to apply for fees, so that it would just be the one, not both. So I would hope that would be a friendly amendment, Alderman Bry, that no matter which way it goes, that they would not be required to pay that second one. Okay, thank you. Just make sure that that's in there. So any further discussion from the council? Again, I guess it takes 8 since it is of the body. Alderman Vanderkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would, if possible, motion to table this to the March Common Council meeting in order to give Alderman Beeman a chance to vote on it in order to get full representation from the city from all 10 alders.
There's a motion to table and a second. There is no discussion on tabling, but unfortunately, there's some information that I wish we could share about publishing, but can't do it. Okay. All those in favor of tabling to March?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So can we see the noes? Okay. So the motion carries to table to March.
We're always going to farm votes?
Yeah. So the motion carries
Question.
8-1. Yes.
Point of order on that.
Yep.
Since now council just kicked it down the road, what about the fees?
Well, there's also, the fees are one thing,
Because
but
that was part of the motion for tonight, but that doesn't seem like going forward. So I'm just, if we're going to farm votes, I think we should have an answer to that.
well, there's also a timeline. Eric, you probably can explain this better. Publishing.
Well, the publishing isn't the issue. The fact is that it has to be adopted and signed by 8. There has to be a yay vote for 8 within 60 days of February 14th now is the issue.
Yeah, okay. So the March meeting should work then?
Yeah.
Okay, well, regardless, the motion carries to table to the March meeting. We'll take it up there again. We'll move on to the other Plan Commission documents.
We have document 139, which is an ordinance to rezone property from B3 General Business District to R7 Central Residence District for property generally located along the west of South 9th Street, the south side of Hamilton Street, and the north side of Madison Street. Plan Commission returned same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
Council pleasure on this ordinance.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 140 is an East Point Land Development Howe review of subdivision preliminary plat for the preserves at Lincoln Park. Plan Commission returned same, recommending to approve.
Council pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Just like to say thanks to the developers. This is, housing is going to be probably the #1 issue the city talks about in 2023. So to see this, a major housing development, something we haven't seen the likes of in generation in the city, is a very good sign moving forward. So thanks to them. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, I'd look for Alderman Schley.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say in honor of President's Day, I wanted to recognize all the former presidents and current presidents of the United States for doing the tremendous job or handling a tremendous job carries a tremendous amount of stress and as we've all seen, can age in individual generations. So I wanted to extend my thanks to them and a salute to the man who I think was the greatest president of the 20th century, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schley. Any further discussion or other business? Seeing none, the motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second by Alderman Reckelberg. We are adjourned.
Everybody stay safe in this coming weather, okay?